Hey guys, what's up? It's Alyssa. So today I'm gonna make a video on my labor and delivery experience. Um, my son is almost a month old. He'll be a month old on the 25th, so I am really sorry that this is really late. Um, I know I haven't been making a lot of videos, and like I said, things are hectic with a 1-year-old and a newborn, so I've just been like super busy with them, and I don't really have time to do this. So I'm just getting around to it kind of when I can. But I did say I'd make a video about this, so I'm gonna make a video about it. And don't mind my hair; it's kind of like 10 different colors right now. I'm in the process of trying to go back blonde, so it's kind of like orangey, but that's okay. Hi, Callie. What are you doing? You gonna say hi? Come here. Come sit with mommy. You wanna sit on mommy's lap? Come here. Ugh. Say, I'm gonna be in the video today. Yay! Okay, so I'm gonna start the morning, the day that I went into labor. That day though, I did have a doctor's appointment. I was 2 days, yes, I was 2 days past my due date, according to them. So so I had my doctor appointment. It was past my due date. So they were going to set me up an induction date, for the following week. And they did that. And they asked her, I'm like, is there anything you recommend me doing? Because, Callie was my first baby, and I went into labor before my due date with her. So, and I went, into labor on my own and everything like that. So I asked her, is there anything I can do? Like, I was kind of confused as to why I wasn't going into labor, to be honest, because I really thought with him I was actually going to go really early because I just kept, having symptoms, and because I had just given birth a year ago, I know what to look for. The dad. Yeah, the dad. What, mommy loves you. So, yeah, you like hearing mommy talk? You saying hi? Say hi. 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 Okay, sorry. So, um, yeah, I'm at the doctor's, and she said that she didn't really have anything to recommend, but she did say that she could sweep my membranes. So when she did that, she also checked me for dilation, and the week before that, I was only a fingertip dilated. Well, when she checked me, she's like, I'd say you're about a 2 or a 3. And then she swept my membranes, and she's like, okay, now that I've done this, you're a solid 3 centimeters. And you're about, I think she said it was 75% effaced. I think she said that. I know I was a solid 3 though, but I'm pretty sure it's 75%. But anyway, beside that. She said, just do a lot of walking today, and it should help get the process going. And she said if sweeping the membranes works, it usually works within the first 24 to 48 hours. So she said that if it's gonna work, she said, she even told me, she's like, I honestly think you're gonna go into labor tonight. And she was the doctor on call at the hospital that night. She's like, I'll probably see you tonight. She's like, I definitely do not think you're going to make it to your induction date, which would have been a week later. So I was like, okay, cool. So right after, we went to the mall because I'm like, I need to get my walk on because I'm ready to get this baby out. So we went to the mall, and we walked around, and I was feeling kind of like I wasn't contracting. I was just feeling kind of like groggy, I guess, just like not myself, and I don't know. I felt labor approaching, but I wasn't contracting. It was just like, I don't know how to explain it. If you've had a kid before, you probably know what I'm talking about. But, so we walked around the mall, and, then we came home, and I, tried to relax for the rest of the day, because I didn't want to overdo it, you know what I mean? So, I just tried to relax, and, Mike had work that night, so he went into work, and what's really funny about this is there was a really good storm that night, and there was tornado warnings, and where I live, it's literally like flat land, so it's really easy for a tornado to drop. I'm telling you. So I was really scared, and the wind was so heavy, and I didn't really know what was going on outside. I kept hearing a lot of noises and things banging around and flying around, and it was just really scary, and the storm was really bad. And I was really scared, so I kept calling Mike, and I was like, "You need to come home now. I'm so scared." And he's like, "No, like you're acting crazy, yada yada yada." So I literally at one point had Callie in the hang on a second. Sorry about that. So what was I saying? So I just brought Callie out to Mike because she was kind of all over me and trying to touch the computer. So I thought, anyway, whatever. So that night I actually had brought Callie into the bathroom because it's the only room in our house with no windows, and we live in a one-story home, so we don't have a basement. And I was getting really scared. Like, I'm not even kidding. It like wasn't a joke. So I was really scared, and I had Callie in the bathroom, and I was just freaking out the whole night. And then around like 10:30, I think, I called him at work, and I was like, oh no, first I called him and he didn't answer because I had started contracting, and I was actually on the phone with my grandfather. Okay, so I was talking to my papa on the phone, and he lives in Florida, so the storm came from like that way. And there was a couple tornadoes near him, and there was tornadoes in Virginia. There was tornadoes like dropping like everywhere. So, and he was like telling me like, Alyssa, like, you can't control Mother Nature and, all that type of stuff. So, it was like funny, but he was like, and he was kind of drunk too. So he was like trying to like, calm me down and stuff. But anyway, so besides that, I started contracting on the phone with him, and I was like, it just happened out of nowhere. And I was like, oh shit, Pop, like I think I just had a contraction. And he's like, Alyssa, now here's what you need to do. You need to call an ambulance. And I'm like, I am not calling an ambulance because I'm contracting. Like, that's ridiculous. So, he was like, he was drunk, so he was like, you know. But, so, and then another contraction came. And right off the bat, these were like 2 minutes, like these weren't far apart at all. So Mike comes home from work, or no. Okay, so I get off the phone with my papa because I'm like, and I like started to become like in a lot of pain. I was like, oh no, Pop, I'm contracting again. And while I was contracting, I couldn't talk to him through. He'd be like, Alyssa, you there? Alyssa, you there? And then, um, I would be like, yeah, I'm here. Like as soon as the contraction stopped. And he's like, oh God, like you're in labor. And I'm like, dude, like I really think I'm in labor right now. So I called Mike at work, and the funny part is he didn't answer me right away because that whole night I had been calling him and blowing up his phone, telling him to come home because I was scared of the storm. So he probably thought that's why I was calling him again. So I finally get him to pick up his phone, and I'm like, babe, I'm in labor. Like seriously, you gotta come home. And he's like, Alyssa, stop. Like you swear that this isn't just an excuse for me to come home because of the storm. And I'm like, no, like seriously, I'm in labor right now. So he comes home, and oh God, I'm in so much pain. So we go to the hospital, and we get to the hospital. By the time he gets home and we get to the hospital, it's around midnight. So we're at the hospital around midnight, and she checks me, the nurse that was there. She checks me for dilation. I'm still only 3 centimeters, but my contractions on the monitor were consistently 3 to 4 minutes apart. And she's like, so what were you at the doctor's office earlier? And I was like, 3 centimeters. And she's like, yeah, you're still only a 3. She's like, she told us, she's like, you know what? You might just be contracting because you're dehydrated. And me and Mike looked at each other like she was a fucking idiot. I am sorry. I can understand that you can contract because you're dehydrated. Not when you're past your due date. I'm contracting past my due date because I'm in labor. Like, I swear to God, like, I literally thought I was talking to an idiot. Like, I'm like, why is she working here? She's like, you can either go home and drink lots of water, or we could put you on fluids here. And I'm like thinking in my head, well, I'm going to be a lot more comfortable at home. Like, you're not going to induce me, or like, you know what I mean? You're not going to make anything, like, make the process go faster. You're just going to put me on fluids to hydrate me. It just sounded so ridiculous. So, and I can understand that that can happen, you know, if you're 25 weeks along, even 30 weeks along, 32 weeks along, past your due date though. I mean, come on, like, let's get real. So, um, she's like, they sent me home. So, you know, the person that like checks you in the emergency room, like when you first go in? Well, she was really nice and she saw us walking back out because she actually wheeled me up there in a wheelchair, you know, because Mike was holding Callie, so Callie to come with us. So she saw us come back down and she's like, they're sending you back down. And I was like, yeah. She's like, aren't you past your due date? I'm like, yeah, they're sending me back down. And I started bawling my eyes out because then I started to have a contraction and I was in so much pain. And like, she just looked at me like she couldn't believe that they just did that. So we go back home and I'm like in the car, they get so much worse. And I'm in so much pain, like it's ridiculous. So we get home and needless to say, hydrating myself was the last thing on my mind because I was dehydrated, you know. So anyway, so I wasn't even worried about that though. I was in so much pain. So Mike starts me up a bath and I um you know, take the bath and I can't even sit in it right. I'm like in there like doggy style to be honest, like on my knees, like I'm in so much pain I can't sit down. I could not sit down normal to save my life. I was in intolerable pain. Oh, and you know what the funny thing is? Flashback for a second. You know what the funny thing is about me being in the hospital and that nurse? She's like, so, Mike was like, so when are we supposed to come back? She's like, when they get worse and closer together. And he's like, how much worse? Like I'm sitting there crying and like it was freaking ridiculous. So anyway, so I could barely take a bath, and um I get out of the bath and I'm like pacing back and forth around the house trying to find somewhere in the house a way to make me feel comfortable during these contractions because I couldn't get comfortable at all. And in my mind, I was so scared of having this baby at home and not having the medical attention that I would need. I was so petrified of that because I felt the baby coming. Like I literally felt him coming. So, um, I tell Mike, I'm like, okay, make me another bath. So he makes me another bath, and I'm, you know, I can't get comfy at all. So I get in the bath again, and it was just so much worse that time. I got out after like not even 5 minutes, I think. So I got out, and I found the only way that I could somewhat tolerate them, is by leaning over my bed. So I have a queen size bed, so I would just stand up and I would just lean over it and I would take the pillow, I would put the pillow under my stomach as like I'm leaning over the bed. So I could somewhat tolerate them in that position, but that was the only way I could do so. And even Mike was like, come sit down on the couch. I'm like, I cannot sit down on this couch right now. Like I can't. So and by this time the contractions were just coming and coming. Like I don't even think they were any minutes apart. Like they just wouldn't stop. So it was like right after one, I had another one. It was like I just knew the baby was coming. I was so scared of having the baby at home, and we were only home I think an hour, maybe not even. And I was like, we need to go back to the hospital. Like this, like I was crying. I was in so much pain. And like I said, the only way I could tolerate them was leaning over the bed with a pillow under me. So he called the doctor back, and she was like, all right, we'll send her back in if she's in that much pain. So, like, obviously, like, what the fuck? So, I we go back to the hospital, and I couldn't even sit in the car right. I'm like biting the seatbelt, like literally, like biting the crap out of the seatbelt, like as we're driving. It was ridiculous. I couldn't sit in the car right, like, oh my god, it was a hot mess. So we get back to the hospital, and the girl that was checked us in, she saw us pull up to the front because Mike pulled right up to the emergency room. He didn't park this time. There was no way I was walking from a parking spot to the door of the hospital. No way in hell that was happening. So she saw us pull up, and she had already called up and she knew we'd be back. And she was like, she'd been told, she's like, I knew you guys would be back. Like, this is ridiculous. So we get up there and I'm like crying in so much pain. She's like, you know, wheeling me up in the wheelchair and I'm just bawling my eyes out. And what's it called? We get there and the nurse takes me, a different nurse this time, and she tries to get my weight. Okay, dude, I was just there an hour ago and I got my weight. Like, you don't need my weight again. Like, it was ridiculous. I couldn't get out of the wheelchair for her to get my weight. Like, I couldn't do it. So, and like, if you've had a kid before, you go to two different rooms. So when you're in labor or you think you're in labor, you go to this room and they hook you up to monitors, to check the baby and see if you're actually in labor. And then if you are in labor, then they move you to a different room where you'll actually give birth. You don't give birth in the room that you first go into. So when I went back the second time, they just sent me right to the room where you give birth. They didn't send me into the monitor room. They didn't even do that, because I think they knew when they saw me that that baby was coming. So I get out of the wheelchair and she's like, I need you to put on this gown. I couldn't put on the gown. I just dropped my pants and I took my pillow, because I brought my pillow with me, and I put it under me and leaned over the hospital bed during my contractions. And she's like, I need to check you for dilation. And I'm thinking, this bitch has to freaking wait, because I'm in so much pain right now. So, I finally get on the bed. I left my t-shirt on that I walked in there with. And she checks me for dilation and she's like, okay, yeah, you're about a 5 or a 6 now. And if you've watched my birth plan video, you know that I had planned to do it without an epidural. I planned no medication. I didn't want anything. Well, at this point, I was in so much pain. I was begging for medicine. I was in so much pain. Like, in that moment, I wanted medicine. And she was like, well, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. And I'm thinking in my head, no, like, get me this damn epidural right now. Like, what are you talking about? So you see all these other nurses came in, including the nurse that was there the first time I went, and you could tell that she felt real awkward, because she just felt real awkward. And I'm just like looking at her like, oh, bitch, you should never send me home. So, they're setting up everything for the baby, like, getting that thing ready and whatever that, like, they put the baby on when, like, the baby first comes out and stuff. And so okay, so I got to the hospital. We got back there at 3:19 a.m. Okay, 3:19. Um, and we're there for like 15, 20 minutes, whatever, how long we're there for. And I'm saying, I have to poop, like, I'm gonna shit everywhere. And the nurse is like, no, don't push. And I'm like, no, the baby's coming. The doctor wasn't even in there yet. And she checked me for dilation again, and she's like, okay, yeah, you're about an 8. This was like 10 minutes after, or 15, like, this was very shortly after she checked me if I was a 5 or a 6. She's like, you don't have time for an epidural. You don't have time for any medication. She's like, you wanted to do this naturally. You have to do it naturally. You don't have time. She's like, your second usually comes quicker than your first. And I'm like, I know, but, like, what the hell? You should never send me home. But anyway, so, she checks me again. I'm an 8, and they're like yelling for the doctor to get in there, because my dilation is just going like this at this time. Like, I just keep dilating, and just, like, it just won't stop. So, I start, like, pushing, and the doctor comes in, and I just remember, and I don't know, Callie's in the room the whole time. Plans got screwed up what was supposed to happen with her. So I'm not even getting into that, because that's a whole other story in itself. But so she's in the room and I'm not happy about it at all. It's just, we didn't have a choice but to have her in there. And she's so young that she won't remember it anyway, so I'm not that worried about it. But Mike was with her, holding her, and I'm holding the nurse's hands, and I, like, go to bite the nurse's hands, like, literally bite the shit out of them. And I didn't think that I did, but Mike said I actually did bite the one nurse's hand, and I feel really bad about that. But, oh well, I was not in the right state of mind, so, whoops. But, so, they're, like, telling me I need to hold my legs. I'm like, I can't hold my legs. I was a hot mess. So the nurses, were holding my legs with one of their hands, and then, holding my hands with, the other hands. So I just start pushing, and, the last time she checked me, I was 8 centimeters. So she didn't even check me when I got into 10. Like, they just knew I was like ready to go. So I just start pushing and pushing and pushing, and he was out in like just a couple minutes. Like not it. It didn't take that long at all. It took me so much longer to push Callie out. Like, he was literally out in just a couple pushes. Like, it was crazy, and the whole experience was just so fast and so intense and just so crazy. And like, I hate to say, it just wasn't as enjoyable as Callie's was, because it was just, I can't explain it. Like, with Callie, your first baby, and everything went so much slower, and you know, me and Mike didn't have another baby there, so me and Mike really got to enjoy each other during the experience, and he was there holding me. And this experience was just a mess. It was a mess, and I didn't really get to enjoy him until we got home, and we came home the next day because I didn't have an epidural, I didn't have any medication, so we did get to come home the next day. And looking back on the experience, in that moment you think you're in such intolerable pain and that you need that medication, you need something. But looking back on it, my recovery was easier, my um pushing was easier, everything was just easier. And afterwards was just easier, that if I do decide to have more kids, that's the way I'm going to do it. And to be honest, the hospital, they just send you home if you're not a certain centimeter, or, so I think I would labor mostly at home until I was, to the point that I was the second time, where I was like, I need to go back to the hospital. But it's just crazy to me that we got there at 3:19 and he was born at 3:56, and in just that short amount of time. And I'm so glad we left when we did, or else, it could have been too, like, I could have given birth in the car or at home, or, so that would have been really scary because I didn't have a doctor here. So, um, yeah, I don't know. The experience was just very intense. And my experience with Callie, I'm not going to get into the whole story because it would take a long time, just like this one did. I'm sorry about that. But I did get an epidural with Callie, and it it made my blood pressure bottom out, so I could have passed out or died, or something from the epidural. So that's why in my mindset I had at this time that I didn't want any medication, and that's the way that I was going, you know. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, but with Callie, I did have it, and um, since that happened to me, they had to shut the epidural off. So it did wear off a lot, and it only numbed my one side to begin with. So it did wear off a lot. So with Callie, I thought I felt everything. And I did feel a lot, but I didn't feel everything. um, and this experience definitely showed me that, just because your epidural wears off, you still are numb a little bit, and you don't really feel everything unless you don't have it. Um, but with Callie, they didn't need to tell me when to push or anything. The epidural didn't work in full effect, and they did have to shut it off. So I did know when to push on my own. It did hurt. My recovery was pretty easy with Callie because it wasn't completely numb, but I definitely didn't feel everything, and like I did this time. But if I do decide to have more kids, I am going to do it naturally, because the recovery process is easier, and I don't have to worry about the side effects of an epidural, or the same thing happening again, or it potentially killing me, because that can happen, and it can affect your baby too. So, even though it's a lot of pain at the moment, definitely worth it and rewarding in the end. But now's the time where, like, we're just now enjoying him. Um, it sounds strange, but I don't know. My birth experience was just two completely different experiences, and since this one was just so fast and so intense, it's like now is the time where, like, we're just looking at him, or me, specifically, like, me personally, or I'm just like looking at him and I'm like, wow, like, that's my baby, you know. Whereas with Callie, I really got to enjoy it right away, and I was like, oh my gosh. And um, you know, that's just the way it was. But I don't want to push natural birth on anyone, or you know, or anything like that, or tell people don't get an epidural because this will happen. That's not the case. Every situation is different. Every pregnancy is different. Every person is different. Every person is going to take to medication differently. But from my personal experience, I do recommend natural birth. And I'm really glad that I did it. And I don't know if I want more kids. I definitely don't want any more for a long time, and I'm not sure if I want any more at all. But um, if I do decide to have more, that's the way I'm gonna do it. And yeah, so that's just my labor and delivery experience. If you want a full video on Callie's, I will make it, but I'm not gonna put it into this one because this video would be an hour long, and I don't want to bore you anymore. I do want to say that I am gonna make a 1 month postpartum update, and I know my son is almost a month old. I'm not sure of the date. I think it's the 21st. He'll be a month old on the 25th, so in 4 days. Or, yeah, 4 days. Wow. I need to go back to kindergarten, guys. Um, so, yeah, I'm going to make a 1 month postpartum update, and I'm going to do a Easter video thing, and I promise those will be out on time. Yeah, I think that's it. You know, I hate this rocking chair. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like I'm too big for it. Anyway, so yeah, I think that's it. I'm trying to think if I had anything else to say. Make sure I don't forget anything, but I'm pretty sure that's it. So I will talk to you guys later on this week because I'm going to be doing, the Easter video, my 1 month postpartum update and that stuff. So if you guys want to watch that, be my guest. You guys can follow me on Instagram. I have 2 Instagrams. I do have just my personal account, which is, my mom Instagram. And it's called Mommygram. And it has 2 I's in mommy and 2 M's in gram. So it's MOMMYYGRAMM. Yes. And then I have a fitness account, and it's Fit Mom Alyssa with 2 A's at the end. So it's FITMOMALYSSAA. So there's that. And yeah, I think that's it. Okay, well, bye.